Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. This was my friends over at Yarnspirations.com. This is a zigzag blanket. This is a unique one where there's one peak that's higher than the other. So we're gonna be covering this today. I'm gonna be teaching you how to change the size if you like to do that, and we're gonna get started right now. So in today's pattern you can see that there's ridge work, and we're gonna be using the back loops on these things in order to get the ridges to look. If you don't like to do the back ridges, then just use a regular stitch. Don't use a back loop. That's completely up to you. It will not really change anything in this pattern other than it will take the texture right out of it. So what we have is that we have a multiple of 34 plus 21. So you're going to crochet in sets of 34. So 34, 34, 34, and at the end of the row you can just chain an additional 21, and this will keep it in balance. So what you're looking at here, it's been folded in this particular picture, but the outside edge is tall and so is the other outside edge. So the ones in the middle, then the smaller peaks are resting in the middle, so it keeps everything nice and balanced today. So is there anything really complicated in this whole blanket? Probably not. What you want to consider is that the first and the last stitch, so the first stitch, and this is folded in half, but the last one on this side is never counted when it's moving up. So if you're changing the colors completely in moving up a row, you just ignore the first stitch on the beginning and the end of the row. If you're just continuing along then with the same color, you just have to slip stitch over to eliminate that first stitch out so that you can keep yourself nice and flat and going up the edge. So I'm going to have a diagram for you now, and I'm just gonna show that to you, and let's get started. So here's the pattern in diagram format, and we're gonna go up and down and make it all fun and fabulous. So the multiple is 34 stitches plus 21 at the very end. So the multiple is actually one peak of the big one and a small one together, so that makes up the 34. So you're asking yourself, well, how much distance is that? When it's all completed like this, it'll be only 7 inches wide. When you go to crochet the chain, it's gonna be super long, but once you start this up and down motion, it's gonna compress it like an accordion to bring it back into balance. So approximately every 34 chains is 7 inches of work actually on your sample. So let's continue now, and we're gonna begin. I'm gonna get you started on this, and then you can complete the rest on your own today. So in the pattern it's asking for two sizes of crochet hooks, and you're using a 5.5 millimeter size eye for the main body, and then the trim is just one single crochet around, and it's telling you to use a 6 millimeter size J. Your choice on what you'd like to do. So you're gonna create a slip knot, and you can either chain 225 as per the pattern, or you can keep it in multiples of 34 plus 21. So if you're doing multiples, you're gonna go 34, 34, 34, and when you're satisfied, just add an additional 21, and then you should be back in balance. So choose how many that you're going to crochet for your chain, and then meet me back here in just a minute. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'll see you back here in just a moment. So at this point you're gonna have a super long chain, but you wait. When you see it start going up and down, you're going to notice that the chain is gonna go much more less. So let's begin our first cross. So we're going to just go second chain from the hook, so 1 and 2, and I want you to single crochet into that one. Go into the back loop of your chain. So just single crochet, and then single crochet the next 9 in a row. So just moving down the chain. So let's count those out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So now that 9's done, with the one that you just started with, there should be a total of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the next one that you want to do is that it's gonna be right the next one, but before you get there you gotta go over the peak first. So you gotta chain 2, 1 and 2, and I want you to go 10 stitches starting in the next one down. So starting in the next one and just single crochet the next 10. So let's count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So there is your major peak just completed. So now we're gonna go up the other side. So now it's gonna be a smaller peak. So you're gonna skip over 2. So 1 and 2, and go to the third one over, and I want you just to single crochet the next 5 in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that is your smaller peak right there. So now you're gonna go over the top, so you want to chain 2, and starting in the very next chain go 5 down. So just 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now that completes what you have here. You have the upper large peak and then you have a smaller one. So now you're gonna go and start doing a bigger one again. So just skip the next 2 and go to the third one over and single crochet 10 stitches up. Okay, so it's 10 chains up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this is 7, 8, 9, and 10. So once you have 10 up, you got to go over the peaks. So chain 2 starting in the very next one, and you want to go 10 down. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now you've just gone down the other side. Okay, so you see how that's all working out. So you're gonna go up now a small one, so skip the next 2, go to the third one over and go up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now you're done. So chain 2, you're gonna go over the top, so starting in the next one go 5 down. So what I want you to do is going all the way across, just doing the same repeat pattern, going up and down, and you will get all the way to the very end of your project. And I want you to keep your yarn on as we then complete row number 1. So I'll just come all the way down the second one. So just remember that when you're at the bases you are going to skip over 2, and when you're in the top you just chain 2, but you immediately go right into the next one. So please go all the way across doing the same configuration. When you get all the way to the other side, you're just gonna be ending with the large peak, and you're gonna end up going 10 down, and then the 10 will take you right down to the very base where you started. So what we're going to do is turn our work, and you're gonna go for row number 2. So row number 2 in the remaining of the rows is going to be the same, except for if you're joining on new yarn. So if you're not joining on new yarn, what you need to do is that you need to slip stitch 2 over when you're going to do that. So you're just going to go into the first one, 1, okay, so you're gonna go 1 and then go to the second one over, and what I want you to do is slip stitch it only to the back loop. So if you're new to crochet, there's 2 loops that make up a stitch, but if you go into the one that's in the behind, that's the back loop, and then slip stitch there. And then you're going to begin then going back across. So let's do that. To go back up now, you've slip stitched, so you're going to chain up 1, and in the same one where you slip stitched you want to go in the back loops only all the way across, just single crochet. So do that one plus the remaining 9. So you're gonna just count. So let's just say that's 1, and this is 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and you're thinking, oh no, you just ran out of stitches. The 10th is in the chain 2 space. So just going into the space itself, single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet into that same space for the peak. So that is counted as your final one going up, and it's your first one going down. So starting in the back loops then going down, so if that's number 1, the next one is number 2. So back loop only. So let's count down. So 1, oh, this is number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you're at the 10th, but you're not all the way at the base. So you want to skip over the 2 remaining at the base and immediately start in the 3rd one going back up. So this is a small peak, so you're only doing 5 going up. So skipping over 2, start in the 3rd one, back loop only, so count up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're out of stitches, so that's your peak. This is your 5th, so go right into the peak, chain 2, and then back in the peak, and that's your first one of 5 going back down. So then count down, so 1, so that's your technically your 2nd, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 going down, and you're gonna skip the 2 base and then going back up. So I know what you're thinking. Are you having to seriously count going up and down 10 and 5s? Technically no. If you can identify where the bases are, right where you see them there, and you can identify where the top is, you don't need to count at all. So if you can, if you're that good at crochet, you can do that. So just skipping over the 2 base and then start going up the other side, so it's 10. So 1, 2, I'm not gonna count anymore. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut and just look for the peak of these. I'm not one to excessively count anything. It's not because I'm lazy, it's just because I don't see the need for it if I trust in my own stitch work to make that happen. So I'm out of stitches, so therefore the next one is the peak. So I'm gonna single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet in, and then start on the next one going down in the back loop only. So what I want you to do is maintain this all the way across. This is technically row number 2, and so if you had to change colors, that's the only difference of the way that you start. And if you want to keep it and just do like Karen cakes or something kind of fun, you don't need to worry about changing any colors. Just let it do it on its own as well. Let the yarn be the one that makes all that decision for you. So you're at the very peak. Okay, so you see that these were at the peak, so I'm gonna skip over them and then start going up the small one. Please do this all the way for row number 2. So when you're finally coming to the other side, what you want to do is stop 1 stitch early. So you're not gonna go all the way down to the base. You're still going down 10, but you're just stopping 1 stitch before you get there, and then that puts you back in balance for the whole thing. Okay, so you technically have 2 left, so just go into the second last one and leave it. So if you were just changing, you're not changing a color and continuing, you just turn your work and then just slip stitch that one, the one that you're currently in, slip stitch that one, and then going into the back loop of the next one, slip stitch, and then start again. So if you were to change your color, let me show you how to do that. So if you were to change your color, get rid of your color on the final pass across and just weave in your ends, and then I'm just going to turn my project and then begin a second color. So where you start the second color matters. Okay, so let's just grab a blue because it's contrasting. So I'm just gonna create a slip knot to begin, and so you want to instead of slip stitching over 2 like you had, what you want to do is that you want to start off in the second one in the back loop only, and then just join it with a slip stitch, chain 1, and then begin to do your single crochets up and down, again in the back loops only. So make sure you cover up over top of your stragglers so that you don't have any tails to worry about, and therefore you can have a lot of fun. And the texturing is provided by using the back loops, and you'll see that it looks like sandbars at the bottom of Lake Huron when I grew up. So it's kind of really quite nostalgic for me in many ways, walking on them and seeing them in the water. And so you just go up and down the peaks with your new color, and what you want to do is when you get to the end, again stop 1 stitch early. You can continue this color or change it, or you can just use self-striping yarn and get that to change on its own. So this is a really neat idea. This is the Zig-Zag Afghan by Yarnspirations, and it's really not hard, and I like the idea. I've always wanted to do an Afghan where I had peaks of a different height and this is satisfying my need for that. So until next time, it's Mikey on behalf of Yarnspirations as well as the crochetcrowd.com. We'll see you.